What you got, Dallas? Any questions?
You already asked?
No, it might not be.
You playing? Should have asked Dallas how he's doing.
Nick, yesterday the team put out a video of you giving a team meeting, and you said to the team, sometimes you, sometimes me, always us. I was just curious why you decided this week was the week to deliver that message.
Yeah, I think in football, everything, one thing I talked about on Saturday was like, hey, here's always going to be these keys, but in football, it's always going to come down to, who's the toughest. It's always going to come down to who's most detailed, and it's always going to come down to who has the best team. And I don't mean players, I mean team, right? And that's just never going to change in football. And so that was just one of the things I used to talk about team. I talked a little bit about detail. I talked a little bit about toughness, and then that was one thing I used from team. I actually got that from Johnny Wilson. He had a shirt on that said that. I thought it was pretty cool.
Speaking of toughness, you've had Saquon's done it, Devontae's done it, AJ does it all the time, but finishing off runs near the sideline. But what's the teaching? How do you teach your receivers to not put themselves in a situation where maybe they could get hurt or lose the ball by continuing their runs after the catch?
Yeah, you want to be physically tough in everything that you do. There's a time and place to step out of bounds. There's a time and place to put your head down and finish the run. And when you do put your head down and finish the run, it brings a lot of energy to the sideline. It brings a lot of energy to the game, just like a big-time catch would, and the energy that happens on the sideline. We show those. We actually show those and be like, hey, here's our standard of how we finish on the sideline. Now, I've had receivers that were smaller receivers that I didn't want them to do that at all times. But, Devontae is so tough. AJ's tough. Saquon's tough. Dallas, right? Dallas, I think if you really go back and look at all of Dallas's clips, when he has an opportunity to go out of bounds or be violent on the sideline, he's choosing to be violent, and it sparks your team. It's like a big hit. I think the similar question would be, Jeff, would be like, how do you teach a guy to knock the crap out of somebody or just get him down, right? And it's the same deal. As far as the ball security goes, you're always thinking about how you have the ball in your outside arm. That way you can do what you need to do on the sideline. Like if you have the ball in your inside arm, it's hard to play pound on the sideline, or it's hard to use your stiff arm on the sideline. So we always teach the ball security of having it on your outside arm. So that way, if you do have a fumbling issue, something that pops out, at least it pops out to the side of the to where the out of bounds is.
Nick, you mentioned that on the radio that Doug was helpful to you during your transition to head coach. Can you just expand on that a little bit? Like, in what ways was he helpful?
Yeah, again, I always want to keep conversations that I have with other people private, and I just felt like it was helpful with me with people on the roster and how the building is and just everything. I just felt like, again, it's just something that I always admired. I always try to put myself in that scenario. I'm like, would I help? And I think I don't know. I just don't know if I have that in me to do that. And I admire people that do. And hopefully, I'm teasing when I say that, but hopefully I can pay that back for other coaches. I think that's what's cool about the coaching fraternity is that we all got here because of other coaches and that the time that they put into us to help us get better, and we need to pay that forward. And so I always admired Doug for that, and I'll try to do the same.
Can you talk about the physicality of your team? Does that come from an emphasis on it, or does it come from just having players who are physical?
Both. Definitely both. I think it starts for sure with having players that are physical. But everything you want to be has to be emphasized. If you want to be a team that protects the ball well, you got to emphasize it. You want to play it just like I'm talking about with the the clips on the sideline. I'm going to show it. I'm going to show Smitty lowering his head on the sideline and not lowering his head. He can't do that, but lowering his shoulder on the sideline and finishing the run. Because I know that's just one piece of it. Like we're talking about Jeff asked me about the finishing on the sideline. That's just one piece of it. the slice block where you come across the line of scrimmage and have to throw your body, when a tight end has to throw his body into a defensive end, that's part of it, right? And so it's hard to like turn it off and say, okay, on this I'm going to be super tough, and on this I'm not. But like I have the picture of Grant in my office now of the New Orleans game where he came across and threw his body into the defensive end to allow Saquon to score the touchdown to help put us up. You talk about that with the way you are physical as blockers, the way you tackle, the way you get off blocks. Like there's no, like getting off blocks is not, there's never going to be it's not a way that it's a football thing, right? It's something that is designed to, you have to strike somebody in the chest. And not only that, you have to take your hands and then throw them off you and finish with an arm rip or whatever you need to do, or your hand swipes to finish and to be able to go tackle the ball carrier. So like everything in football has to do with this. So like if I talk about football and it's always about team, it's always about physicality, it's always about detail, well then I have to emphasize that. But again, make no mistake about it, that we look for that. When Howie and I talk about that all the time. We're looking for players that are physical football players. Because we know this is a physical game. And I think that I always feel like when we've played our best here is when we've really set the tone physically. But you can't do that without the players that we have. So I do think it's a both and, but all the credit goes to the players because they're the ones out there doing that with their body.
Nick, in the past year, you guys suffered when Dallas went down receiving yards wise from your tight end position. Grant's obviously picked that up. Was there something you saw from him through training camp or through the offseason that has led him to be able to contribute that way?
Yeah, I think it all started with Grant when we first got him, and what we liked so much about him. I remember the rookie minicamp. Grant made some really unbelievable plays in rookie minicamp where we're like, yeah, we got something here. And we thought that obviously why we drafted him from his tape. But then, I think that he's, and opportunities that he's had here and there, he's made the most of it. And then I think he just had an outstanding offseason. The OTAs portion of it, I think we've really started to just have more and more faith in Grant because of the work that he put in, because of the development that he had done. Jason Michael's done a great job of helping him develop, and Grant's done a great job developing himself. Dallas takes a big pride into helping his teammates become better. And then he had, a good training camp, and now he has this opportunity. He had this opportunity with Dallas down to have some balls thrown to him, and he's done a really nice job. And so, again, that guys taking advantage of their opportunities is huge. Like for not only for your football team, right? Because guys are going to go down. Like Fred has stepped in and done a nice job. Tyler Steen stepped in and did a nice job. Grant, Isaiah. It's huge for your football team, but it's also huge for these guys and their careers moving forward.
On Steen, you entered training camp on right guard, saying you didn't have to make a decision. You've gotten offensive production with Becton or Steen in there. How do you view that position when they're both in the game, and how do you view that position now, 7 games into the season? Yeah,
we have great depth. Again, credit to Howie and his staff for the guys that they brought in here. Credit to Coach Stout. To developing that, and Kellen to help develop that talent, and then the credit to the guys of being ready to step in. And I think that Tyler played a really good game. Mekhi's been playing really good football. Tyler played a really good game. Tyler played a good game last year when he stepped in and helped us win a divisional game last year, a division game last year. And then but yeah, I have a lot of faith in both of them. And it's been. Those guys having those combo blocks with Lane have been exciting to watch, and when those guys have combo blocks with Cam, they've been exciting to watch. Again, going back to the physicality of how those guys play.
Nick, you just mentioned all the backups who've had to play bigger roles. How do you get guys to buy in to being backups and preparing like they're going to play, even though they might not?
Yeah, you talk about it. I think first and foremost, you tell everybody what their role is, and I think that's just the honesty of being, hey, here's what your role is, but understand that in this game that any moment, at any time, your role can change, and you can have an elevator role, and you could also have a decreased role if you're not, performing the way you need to in practice. And so it's like we talk a lot about practice and how you get better is that high intensity at practice. Well, these guys are going, for instance, Tyler, is going against Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Milton Williams in practice frequently on the scout team to help himself, to help them get ready, but also to help himself get better. And then you celebrate it when the guys do come in and they perform. Like that's not new. Like I think back a long time. Like Jack Driscoll has stepped in and played some meaningful games for us that have helped us win a lot of football games. Nate Herbick, name from the past that helped us. The list goes. Landon wasn't starting right away, right? And then he came in and he ran with that. Cam, right? And so the stories are endless and all. Again, you talk a lot about controlling what you can control. Okay, you didn't win this starting job, but now control what you can control and just continue to be better, get better. And when it's your numbers called, you got to take advantage of that by the preparation. And you never really know when that's going to happen, so you always got to be prepared. And that's why every week is so critical of putting your head down and working and not worrying about anything else other than the things that you can control. I think that you talk to our players and they're going to say, I think that'd be something that they would say a bunch is like you create a culture and you create a mindset of all these things that are important. And I think that's been one thing that's been real important.
We saw Jalen get late into some of his progressions, maybe a little more so this past week than previously.
Say that one more time, Jeff.
Some of Jalen's completions were late into his progressions. Did you notice that? And has there been
like number 2, 3, 4 receiver?
Yeah.
I think he did.
You guys been working on to help him in that regard.
Yeah, I think that's just the him getting through his read and getting to the guy that's open. Again, you always want to be on attack and you always want to go to where you want to throw the ball, but that's not the reality of playing quarterback. And so, I thought it was really good. Like, I thought what he did really well, particularly in this game, is like when he had that time. Like I think there was one that he hit AJ over the middle that he had to hold on to and let the second window clear. That doesn't happen without the protection of the offensive line and the run action of the running back and the quarterback. And then just from that, it's just something that we've seen him do, and particularly in practice. I know last week he got down to his check down multiple times, and then it showed up. It's awesome when it shows up in the game. I just think, again, he's playing quarterback at a high level. Playing quarterback at a high level is not just throwing the ball accurate. It's going to the right place with the ball, and the right place with the ball could be their third and fourth read.
On the conversation of specific roles, what is Jahan Dotson's role?
Yeah, again, I don't get into with you guys as far as this is this person's role. That's kind of something that I have with our team of, hey, this is what your role is. This is what your job description is. Here's what we need you to do. What I will say though is that I know the ball didn't come to Jahan on Sunday, but I did notice him blocking his butt off and helping our run game go. I think there's a play on Saquon's bubble that we threw to him that he got a block that allowed Saquon to, he played tough and played strong and was able to, to get that block. And I see him improving every day, just being around the guys that he's around. Aaron Moorhead's doing a good job, and he's doing a good job of getting better.
When Doug was helping you out with the roster, did you get a sense like how excited he was, or if he was excited about Jalen's future?
Yeah, again, that's a long time. I don't want to get too much into the conversation. Again, Doug helped me, just talk through things, other coaches, everything. And so, like, I don't want to get too much into that conversation. But I know how, I know Doug thought, you'll have to ask Doug. I think he thought Jalen was pretty darn good, though.
Two more folks? Last year, you said that a point differential is not something you pay as much attention to. But these double-digit wins from like an isolated game perspective, does that matter to you? Do you think that says something about a team when you can win big?
I always I think we look a lot at things and like, man, that team won a really gritty game. Like, and we celebrate that. And I think that we celebrate at times when you win by a couple scores and you're able to get your starters out. So a win's a win, and they're hard to come by in this league. And right now we got 5 of them. We got 2 non-wins, and we're going to continue to try to work this week to get the 6th one.
You mentioned Cam a couple times. somewhat large sample size now. He had big shoes to fill. We kind of don't even talk about him now because he's playing so well. Anything surprising about Cam and his ability to step into that role?
You know, I think that there were questions. There weren't questions on Cam being able to do that role because, bless you, because we got to see him play last year. You know, it wasn't like, I mean, that was a really unique thing that Cam was able to go through of being Jason's backup for a year and then playing alongside Jason and then, you know, taking Jason's spot when Jason retired. And so, like, I think we all expected Cam to do this because we've seen him play at a high level. And it's going to be a little different that he's playing a different position. But, yeah, no surprises on our end and really pumped how Cam's playing, and you just got to keep going.
Nick, after the Bengals game, Jalen talked about the desire to have more of an imposing mentality as a team. He said it's something that he's been pushing for. What's an example of how he's pushed for that?
Yeah, I think when you know, imposing, I think we've talked a lot about that with our physicality, and how we go about, you know, trying to win games. And like I said, every time we've been good here is, you know, and played at our best, we've been a physical football team, and because of the men in the room. And so, you know, I know, you know, we're always constantly talking to Jalen about, and Jalen's always constantly talking about to us about what, you know, what's comfortable with, what he feels good about, you know, and you're just always trying to put him in positions to succeed. And so I think it's just the conversations you have throughout the week with the quarterbacks and coaches.
All right, thank you.